that just brought to mind an amazing memory from the Pete call, because when you said that when you ask for examples, they get tongue tied, that question, brother, came to mind when Brother Pete was saying I was this and I was saying that. That question came to mind, and I said, brother, can you give me an example, one example of me saying what you're saying that I did or I said? And
Yeah,
he literally started stuttering. And then when he finally answered it, he said something that was untrue. I showed him, brother, that was actually what you said. And, I mean, he's just tripping all over himself. And all I did was ask exactly that question. Can you give me an example? If you're saying I'm this, or if you're saying I said that, can you repeat that sentence that you're saying I said? When did I say that? And it's
yeah,
just, they're unable to produce it all of a sudden.
yeah. Look, I think that the very difficult thing is there's a lot of and I guess for many years I've been on these different talk shows and so forth as well, and I've been, and I guess I've put it together in a sense where I've even seen on warrants, and I've seen it on court documentation. He said, she said, he said, she said, all this kind of banter stuff. And what I've realised in all of this communication, do we open the door for one another? In other words,
Mhm.
fuck, I've said, what haven't I said in this lifetime? Holy shit, I've said, fuck, you tell me what I haven't said. All right. So I may have said that. Okay, cool. You say it may be that I said that, but if there was a chance to rephrase it so that we're both in line with understanding, would it help if I maybe rephrased it? If that didn't work with you, maybe if I said it a different way, would that help you? Yeah, because obviously what I'm saying now, it's stirring the pot a bit. It's obviously the message isn't coming across, and I found that with say on the back calls, many times that I would speak, I would say something on a particular way, and then Batman would totally interpret it completely opposite to what I was saying, and it didn't really matter what I would what angle I kept coming at.
That's
He
right.
was very convinced that that's where I was coming from, and I find that if that's the case, and that's what I'm dealing with, then that also helps me see right. Um, you know, you're only going to go so far with some, you know,
And I like
and
that. I like that
it's
line
not
a
going to
lot.
be, something where it's an open book, and where it's an open book, we all agree to be that. So this is really important, if there's such a thing with the communication, that we all agree that if you say you and I have a struggle, that we come into conference, we come into a discussion, even if there's a grievance with another brother, that we come together. There's that desire, there's the want or an interest amongst one another to come and resolve the differences that bring us
Right.
into similarity, because the only thing that divides us is what someone else perceives or believes,
Right.
or God knows, and there's a reluctance in some way on one party or the other to come together and discuss it.
Mm,
They'd rather go off on their own thinking, oh, he's
mm,
another arsehole, or he's a bastard because he said this and this, rather than going, okay, I may have said that because, this is how I felt at the time. It may not be how I'm feeling right now, but if I'm trying to put a message across for whatever we were talking about, um, you know, um, if we can open the door to rephrasing things, if we can open the door for one another to say, instead of you said, he said, and you said this and you said that, well, I may have said all these things, but what's going to help right now? What are we going to do to use this language where we're not holding it for against one another? We're actually using it for one another. Imagine thinking that way. We're using this technology for one another.
man.
And if instead of against one another, we're using what you're saying, I'm going to use it for you. So, and when I demonstrate it, I'm going to use this language for you. I'm saying, you know, if I said something that you either didn't understand or you reacted to or you're triggered with or whatever bullshit one would like to describe it, I made a claim or I didn't make a claim or I made a statement or whatever. If I was to rephrase it, how would it sound? You know, would that make it better? You know, what can I do to you know, come across in a way where we're both in agreement as a brother and sister? And that's where the language is, or technology is, you know, is that what it was supposed to be, where we come to agreeing with one another, not agreeing with the agents, not agreeing with the unknown factors, which a lot of these calls, they all want to have a meeting of the mind with the unknown forces. Well, good luck with that. That's a whole different kettle of fish altogether. But if you're just talking amongst one another, like Pete or Batman or whoever, are you open? And that's what I was screaming out to Batman as well. Are you open to consider another perspective? And it seemed to have fallen on deaf ears. That's all.
Seed planted on barren ground. The seed gonna die, brother. That seed is gonna die.
Yeah, look, it's a big one. You know, I even said to Batman, because he surprised me actually. He said he's been listening to the calls that sending out, and I said no fucking way. I said you might even learn something, Batman.
Holy shit! Could it be?
And you know, he took it in a way that it was hilarious, but was there a bit of truth in it? You know,
hey,
you know, so.
Humble.
Yeah.
Hey, man, if we all come humble, we can all learn from each other, I believe. And I think that's what you're already saying. But, you know, why is there this closed offness, like this seemingly unwillingness to get along?
Well, I just think it's teething. I think this is the teething part of these calls. When I say teething, it's like infants. We're at an infant stage. And I do feel there are a few brothers who are either listening in and they're cottoning on to some of this stuff. And they're going, there may be something into this. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm. Oh yeah.
And even if there's a few who are, you know, wanting to just pay attention in a sense, really, what's going on here?
That's right.
You know, then you know, it's well worth it in a way. You know.
Hey, well worth it, brother. Agreed, brother. And look, speaking of agreement, I just wanted to bring it up again. The last time I was around the courthouse, there was probably 30 matters before they called the one I was allegedly there for, and every single case at the end, a judge used the word agreement. And I may have mentioned this before, but literally every single, I was nudging the lady beside me. I was like, "Listen, agreement. Did you hear it again? Agreement. Did you hear it again?
There
Agreement."
you go. Beautiful. When you start training the ears to listen, it's like it's like being on another planet. You start listening for I am. Start listening for people speaking from I statements, and then you go, "Fuck! I think I've just heard in like 5 minutes 100 fucking I statements." Imagine the transmission on the whole planet. I like fucking the I fucking, you know, we're just I this, I that, and there's just endless. Do you know there's so many I words? It's just incredible, and all words, they all come back to the I am. Like, just what a head fuck, hey? Like,
is it true there was a people who refused to even speak the letter or word I because they believed that referred to the holy, the creator or whatever? I believe there was a whole people that refused to even say the word.
Even refusing is still acceptance, but it's But I remember there was a movie once which I really liked. Someone was accused of something, and someone owned up to it, and he goes, "I did it," and there was 500 other men around this one fella, and then the other fella goes, "I did it," and then 500 other people all of a sudden said, "I did it."
Yeah.
So in other words, we were all in agreement and we all took the burden of the one. Now that is how it's supposed to be.
There you go.
You know what I mean? It's just if we're all in agreement, then the I am and the Father are we've got agreement here. You know, this works perfectly. Yeah.
Yeah.
But if you know, where there's no agreement, then there's also agreement that you're actually agreeing to in some way if you're going into statement land or making a claim or something in the world of commerce. Very, very easy. It doesn't take much to go into commerce. Very, very easy.
Well, especially if one is still struggling speaking with so-called brothers, how could one ever seriously scrutinize, words from an agent? I mean, because if communication is already so cloudy, seemingly cloudy, I mean, everything you're scrutinizing seems like it comes down to actually being able to listen. Actually, and maybe that's why there are no examples on the calls.
Well, there's no examples on the calls. There's only one reason why there's no examples on the calls, because everyone's just talking about. To me, it's just more garbage. But in the garbage, there is some, gold there as well. But there's no progression in the sense that nobody actually brings anything to the table, other than either a complaint, which is good. I do, that's why if I said, we do with. We bring the transcripts, we bring the audios, we bring the videos, we bring all these things so that we can actually start to see the physics of all that. Let's have a look. Let's see what's the outcome of saying that. If I said that, what's the, I'd like to see the physics in this. The physics are kind of like, like a mad scientist in a lab, and they put one chemical with another and it explodes. Well, that's a little bit like, with this technology, this language, it's a little bit like a physics lesson. So you start to see, you put a bit of negative with a bit of positive, and you put a bit of peace with a bit of war, or you don't put you just put a bit of peace in, and then suddenly you realise it explodes because you didn't consider the war element of it. Imagine every word has its absolute opposite, and that's very, very difficult. It seems to be very difficult. For one to conceive is the opposites. And if you're seeking out the opposite to every single statement, you're closer to such a thing as the assumption of truth. You're closer. And then you can go with the so-called truth. Well, what is truth? There you go. Pontius Pilate asked that question. What is truth? Hey, imagine that. In other words, what the fruitcake does anyone know? Crazy stuff.
And that's if you're even searching for it, or are you comfortable in belief? Searching for
that's why look, if I said the best way to start to find questions is like the prodigal son, it's like going back into the system. And the system has look, did I just suddenly, come to talk like this? No, this is like an alchemy, day in, day out, like 20 odd years, hammering this, doing it all the time, and then it just becomes easier and easier and easier. It's like learning to write with your left hand or your right hand, or it's starting to use the mind in saying, okay, what did I just hear? I heard this. Now, why can't I think of a question? Sometimes, a question used to come to me. Someone would talk to me, and I knew there was a question in it, but I said, oh, fuck, I can't think of a question to ask him. Sometimes I'd write it down, and it took sometimes 2-3 weeks, and then I'd come up with a question, and I'd go, oh, why does it have such a delay? Now the questions come pretty much not instantly, but they come pretty quick. And it just shows that it can be done. And the questions are it's like a game of tennis. Someone hits your ball, the offer, and you're looking for the mirror question to the offer.
So, brother, you just said something that caught the ears. Uh, you said it's like learning to use your offhand, right?
Yeah,
How is this like learning to use your offhand? Because I think that's a very interesting uh, way
because it's a
to.
muscle. It's a muscle you've never used before.
Mm,
Because the only muscle we're used to is basically um, we we're programmed to um, only how can I put it? We're only see we're only programmed to listen to um, how to think.
yeah.
Hang on, is it not what? No, we're programmed what to think rather
Uh,
than how to think,
uh,
right? And we're listening, we listen in a way where we believe. We when we go into belief, we listen to what someone says. We go in, we listen to what someone says, and then we either interpret it in our, we're relying on our own understandings.
mm,
So I'm listening to what you're saying, but I'm at the same time I'm going by my own understanding of what I think you mean by what you're saying. So I'm automatically going into assumptions in my own brain because I'm an owner, and then I don't ask you any questions because at that moment we're agreeing. Yes, yes, we agree, we agree. And the more I agree with you, the more of a nightmare down the track uh, things are going to happen. All right, because I'm just going along with listening, but I'm not actually listening because if you really look at what listening is okay. You can in a marriage, for example, if you're in a partnership,
mm,
listening is very important. You have clear instructions. Someone
mm,
says, oh, blah 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 blah. Yep, I listen. I take that on. Now, someone says to you, um, um, you know, oh, this happened. I heard this about you. Blah blah blah. And then you say to them, um, uh, okay, would you like to hear it from my perspective? And they go, yep. And I say, look, this is what happens, and it was nothing like what you're talking about. So
mm,
you're sharing to the other about what's relevant to you, and you're speaking straight out from the heart how it was. See, the partner or whoever who might have heard hearsay, you're correcting the hearsay, and because there's trust amongst you two, she should believe you in what you're saying. And belief comes where there are two who agree and there's trust between two people. And where there's no trust, then the hearsay is always going to prevail over one another. And
mm.
that's where the foundations of a relationship are very shaky in most cases, because the hearsay of he said, she said is a lot more powerful amongst the I call it the snake in the water, the snakes that are in the water. Yeah, and if you keep swimming in that snake water, you eventually you become very sickened by that snake water. You keep drinking it, that snake water, it's going to affect you. But if you stand firm with your partner, and she is in agreements with you, because there are two who come together in the midst who agree, and there's the
Mm.
Dolly Parton song, you and I, we can, islands in the stream,
Yeah.
it's we can do it, because no one's going to come in between us, because we are in agreement, and we have a trust, we have a love for one another, and that overrides every bit of hearsay, and that overrides the snakes that are trying to come in between the two of you. Yeah. So the love is always what overrides all the snakes that are trying to swim around you and trying to get in between. And that's listening. Listening is when you correct the woman, and then when you ask her, she corrects you, and then there should be nothing else. There's no other distractions. It's clear, because the two of you, there's a foundation of trust and understanding. But outside of that, then that's where you establish that with your brothers and sisters or other brothers. You establish understanding through clarification and do you mean this and do you mean that? When someone's talking for you and telling you how you perceive something, then hey brother, why are you talking like that? Look, the best way that I realise, and I still jump on the calls some here and there. The best way I think you can do all of this is only through humour, and I think I sent something. I sent something back recently about you and so forth. And it was about whether hang on, when you guys hear, oh yeah, there you go. This is something. When you guys hear about, oh that's right, I said something here. Could it be as long as dominion is there, you'll be fine? So they talk about you in such a way. It's not about you and personalising. It's just a transmission, right? So you look at it and it goes, yeah. And then I said, when you guys hear about dominion, do you speak what, what? Oh yeah, I said, what warm fuzzy feeling do you both feel about him? I think it was to do with Ashley and Batman, and they kind of go, whatever, assumptive or leading question or something. And I said, yeah. So I was basically putting that, hey, without the Dominions, without the Batmans, without the Boons, without all, one another, how do we, do we divide ourselves amongst one another, or do we, come together all as a brotherhood with different perspectives? And that's really all it comes back to.
Well, brother, I just want to add in as well. Like I love what you're saying. In addition to appreciating it, it seems like it's just true and obvious. But at the same time, I even told the lady here, she's gotten a kick out of listening to the calls, brother. She has.
Say again.
I said the lady here has gotten interested in listening to the calls, and so she's she thought it was hilarious, that call where they were going boom boom. she goes around the house now going boom boom. She thinks it's the funniest thing in the world, dude. It is so hilarious. But anyways, those assumptions. I'm just bringing her up because I address this to her too. It's like, just like what you just said, these people are making assumptions about me because they have no clue about me. So how could their assumptions be true or hurtful or even really make sense? It kind of even just looks like foolishness to make a claim about something that you have so little clue about, and while making, asking no questions. I mean, it's honestly asinine to me if I've ever known what asinine means.
Yeah. Well, what I find when I'm talking to the boys, I go, well, why don't you talk to Boon? I use that the name is like the third party in a sense, if in other words, if you listen to the Boon calls or you did this or whatever,
Yeah.
it's I'm not putting myself as if that's personalizing it, so to speak. It's yeah. I kind of look at it. Yeah, it's just looking at some of these. I'm just kind of going through some of the calls while I'm talking to you.
Yeah. Well, just as a while you're looking at as a little side thing, if there was ever money to be made on a platform like this, it would require like live streaming and talking to people who called, and then it would be like trying to speak to other law gurus and see, try to compare and contrast and stuff like you said, sharpen the blade. It would take work to really monetize it. I know that was back then, and I was just like, uh, thinking about it in the back of the mind a little bit, just.
Oh yeah. No, that's it. Yeah. No, I know what you're talking about.
And if it
Yeah.
was making money, brother, listen, trust me, brother. Listen, money's nice, but I view it as a tool, brother. And
Yeah.
if a brother or sister was helping money flow to me, and it was because of them, brother, it's
Yeah.
only right to spread the love. You see what I'm saying?
Well, look, if I said I see everything as a natural resource, and
It would be
that's
naturally.
also how I see, everything like money or anything is, even the terms we use out of the mouth is a natural resource. That's why they extract this sap out of your mouth, because
Yeah.
it's a natural resource. It's a mining. It's one of the biggest mining enterprises on the planet.
Yeah.
There's nothing more, that doesn't, there's nothing more bigger of an enterprise than extracting the sap from the mouth of man. It's the greatest business in town. Yeah. So
Well,
that's, I look at that picture there with the snakes in the water. That's fucking hilarious.
thank you, brother. You were the inspiration. You said something earlier, and man, I was like, oh my god, that would be a great visual.
Because the snakes are always the he said, the she said. I mean, if you look at the scripture, the Garden of Eden, it's Eve made me take from the tree of knowledge, and now I got blamed. And it all starts with he said and she said. But we forget the very powerful question. Well, did you tell me not to eat from the tree of knowledge? There's nothing wrong with eating from the tree of knowledge,
Yeah.
but are you going to ask before you fucking take it?
Yeah.
Yeah. Is it mine first of all to fucking just take? I mean, that's what that. Did you see that the wish taker, the wish? There was a video I sent to you about a guy in prison. He was like the wish maker, the wish
Yes.
master. Yeah, there's a lot in that, and it's all about taking. You can get the brothers to fucking watch that again, because there's some real gold in that.
Yeah.
Yeah, and he's giving you what you ask for. And in the end, he fucks himself up. Not the wish maker, the ones around him. They end up fucking getting all smashed up. Oh man.